Well. Once again, I find myself in a place I don't want to be as a result of my own free will. FNAF 2, the movie. It was bad. Very, very bad. So bad I delivered an impassioned rant from my car on the way home from the theater, and a bunch of 12-year-olds called me the N-word. Target audience, I guess. And because in 2026 the FNAF franchise has basically become a decrepit Phas Ouroboros, of course the FNAF 2 movie had to have a Phas novelization. Gosh, when was the last time we reviewed an official Phas book on this channel? The week before? No, not literally last week. I'm talking about the Choose Your Own Adventure book. By the way, comment below if you've been with the channel since the original Phas book reviews. I need to determine which of you are posers. Anyway, I also reviewed the FNAF 1 movie novelization. And while the overall experience was on par with a typical novelization, meaning just the same story but in words, and while there were some unforgivable formatting and typographical errors, it did add a few things that enhanced character dynamics. Some of them made sense and were good, such as exploring the Schmidt family and how Garrett's death impacted them early on. Others were a little more questionable, such as portraying Doug the lawyer ogling Max the babysitter's breasts. Looks like Doug's gonna be the one needing legal help. Okay, in all seriousness, as pointless as that addition was, stuff like that is kind of par the course for mainstream pulpy horror lit. Read any Stephen King novel. They're hornier than a horned lizard. Which, strangely enough, segues to the subject of the FNAF 2 movie novelization. Despite advertising a formal release of May 5th, readers were able to find physical copies in select bookstores. And boy oh boy do they have a field day with it on Twitter. Alongside the predictably weird and bad writing a Phas book promises, there were certain passages that seemed to creep under the skin like a wayward mini-rena. Specifically, a passage involving Jeremiah's commentary on Abby's physical appearance. Who's 11. Rest assured, we'll get there when we get there. Did those early access readers have a point? Are they overreacting? Does this novelization have anything going for it? To clarify, anything good going for it? So before we dive in, a little info about the author. The novelization was adapted and written by Andrea Waggener. As a refresher, or for those who don't know, Andrea Waggener is an author with Kevin Anderson and Associates, a ghostwriting firm who partners with writers and editors to bring nascent books to life and help market them afterward. She's done her own projects, but Phas books are definitely what she's most well known for. Scholastic, the publisher of the majority of FNAF-related literature, partnered with Kevin Anderson and Associates and worked with Scott Cawthon to put out the Silver Eyes trilogy, the Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex anthology series, the graphic novel adaptations, the Choose Your Own Adventure books, log books, activity books, and the movie novelizations. Let me know if I missed anything. Alongside the first novelization, Waggener co-wrote 34 stories for the anthologies, well over half. She's done some of my favorite stories, some of my least favorites, and a whole bunch in between. Truly, you just never know what you're gonna get with her. What is consistent though is that this book will inevitably commit the same sins seen across each and every Phas book, regardless of the co-writer. Due to the novel's adaptational nature, for this video, we're gonna run through the FNAF 2 movie's plot and then highlight any significant oddities or deviations that occur in the book. So, let's begin. It starts off similarly enough at the first Freddy's location, with Charlotte being the odd girl out. The prologue takes its time to expand on her character, her difficulties fitting in with other children, and her tumultuous past, framing her as having been either abandoned, hit, or ignored by her real parents, her step-parents, and her foster parents. Good lord, this girl's a human hot potato. No one wants to hold on to her. And you're probably wondering, wait, does this mean her biological father, Henry, was written to be abusive/negligent? We'll get to that. Young Vanessa's there again, and they're given more dialogue, but the effect is largely the same. Vanessa's described as having super cool eyes. That's a funny way of saying green. Speaking of which, there is a curious detail in the first novelization where Vanessa's eyes, which were blue, seemed to change color depending on her mood. It was very weird and it did not amount to anything. Kind of like the FNAF lore. But we'll touch on that soon. The following sequence where Charlotte notices the yellow rabbit snatching a child and failing to muster adult attention is pretty much the same. And although the moments where the parents rebuff her aren't as infuriating as the movie, it's still pretty dumb. It was stupid then, and it's stupid now. You're gonna hear that a lot in this video. Afton stabbing Charlotte, her still managing to save the child, and dying in the puppet's arms is also the same. This final image is greatly expanded upon in the novelization. But the accusation that emanated from that dark, dark gaze was even stronger when the marionette's attention landed on the adults in the room. The children were spared the force of the marionette's wrath. The adults, however, got the piercing force of the marionette's condemnation. It looked like they were being forever cursed by the puppet's final judgment. I would not call this prose outstanding, but the benefit of novelizations is you can convey details that otherwise wouldn't really come through in a movie. Stuff like that is appreciated regardless. Lisa, the paranormal investigator, is then introduced, poring over newspapers in her bedroom. And there is a very, bizarre line about the digestive impact of her supper. The pizza she'd had for dinner wasn't sitting well in her belly, but she welcomed the burning. It seemed appropriate somehow that her belly reminded her of the heaviness of the cheesy slices she'd consumed. So appropriate. What? Anyway, Lisa gathers information about Charlotte's mysterious death to prepare for their next investigation, and it's established that she recognizes Vanessa and knows who she is. Interesting additional detail. Does it go anywhere?
No.
Thank you, Mario. Also, one thing you're gonna notice a lot through this book is an annoying overuse of ellipses. The first novelization had that issue too, but they are up to 11 in this one. It is so freaking obnoxious. And then the mouth became visible, a mouth with a twisted, evil-looking grin. Rob was now in total, complete, oppressive darkness. He could not see a single thing. That's when he saw that not a single marionette doll remained at the edge of the water. I want to kill myself. Ellipses are good for conveying an unresolved air, or for building tension or emphasis, especially in horror writing. But here the narration sounds like someone's really corny attempt at telling a ghost story. It comes off very try-hard and amateur. Imagine having to force a dramatic pause after every single... Okay, that's enough. We're then introduced to Mike and Abby, the former of whom is conveyed to be in his 30s, which is funny because the first novelization said he was 25. Apparently the first novel was based off an old draft of the FNAF movie screenplay that obviously never got made. This draft is where we got Max the babysitter's affection towards Mike, Doug being a pervert, and Vanessa's kaleidoscopic eyes. I honestly thought they were trying to push a Vanessa is a robot theory with that detail. Seriously, why did they do that? But I guess they chose the correct draft the second time around because everything is mostly consistent to the movie. Mostly. Enter Mike's friend, Jeremiah, who's described as impish and pretty with longish curly hair, and cute if you liked men who could pass as high schoolers. Andrea, what are you doing? We practicing a little revisionist characterization? Were your glasses smeared while watching the movie? Or do you have some unresolved feelings towards Theodis Crane? Maybe pick some other franchise to work out your, inventiveness? And it's here we get to the passage that had FNAF Twitter up in arms. I'm just gonna read it out loud, straight from the text, and then give my perspective. Back in the doorway, Jeremiah smiled as he watched Abby's act of kindness. "She's a good kid," he said. "Yeah, she is," Mike agreed. "She has a big heart, always helping other people." Jeremiah nodded. "She's going to be a looker, too, when she gets older." Mike's gaze whipped towards his friend. Jeremiah raised both hands in surrender. "Hey, just saying. To me, she's your kid sister and she always will be. But haven't you noticed she's growing up?" Mike frowned at Jeremiah. "Don't remind me." Okay. No, the text is not trying to imply that Jeremiah is a pedophile. But the passage still sucks, and here's why. It's not unheard of for an adult to look at a kid and say something like, "Oh, you're gonna be so handsome," or "You're gonna be so beautiful when you grow up." You usually hear this within families, or, like in the text, close family friends. I don't think it's out of line to recognize that a child is going to grow up to be an attractive adult. I'm sure that was the sentiment Jeremiah was trying to express. And the text acknowledges that it came off the wrong way. Mike even agrees with him to a much less weird extent. But that still begs the question, why even write it that way at all? Yes, I am aware that people misspeak and say things that come off the wrong way in real life all the time. But just because real people can mess up while speaking doesn't mean it's pertinent or appropriate to portray it in fiction prose. Why even introduce that brief but cutting flash of awkwardness to begin with? You're literally writing what these characters say and how they say it. It's just pointless. And of all the words to use in that context, looker? No. Wrong. The last time I heard the word looker, it was my friend who was calling his wife hot. And trust me, that's tame compared to what I've heard them say to each other. If the intent was to trigger the thought in Mike's mind that his kid sister was getting older and going through changes, it could have easily been, I'm telling you, Mike, Abby's grown about a foot since I last saw her. Before you know it, she'll be going to parties, staying out late, bringing home boys. She'll be a whole different person. Same general idea, not nearly as weird, yet still acknowledging that this girl will soon grow into a young woman who does things that young women do. Sorry if I harped on this for a while, but I think it's important to recognize that takeaways like Jeremiah is a pedophile are the result of bad writing, not narrative intent, and readers ought to be able to tell the difference and not jump to conclusions. Still though, writers are also compelled to make sure that their prose is clear so it doesn't potentially compel readers to jump to conclusions like that. You're not going to stop everyone, but if you can help it, you probably should.
Okay, back to the stinky book.
The school scene happens. Mr. Berg is also there and he's pretty much the same. Except for some reason he's rewritten to be 6'3". How tall is Wayne Knight again? Waggener. Also, I don't know what the fuck happened, but page 59 has like a bite taken out of it or something. Someone in the publishing pipeline's running a loose ship. Infested by rats, apparently. The bite of 59, we'll call it. The scene at the Olive Garden, or wherever that was, is largely the same, as well as Abby and Mike visiting the location from the first movie and returning with the Faz Talker. Not much to say here. We then move on to Lisa's investigative segment at the first Freddy's location. Their show, for some inexplicable reason, is not named Spectral Scoopers, rather Paranormal Investigations. Why though? That's like renaming Mystery Inc. to The Mystery Solvers. It's just bland and pointless. I mean, was Spectral Scoopers too goofy? Did Andrea feel that a story about a chicken in pink booty shorts needed a little more class? Michael Afton shows up and gives them the tour, and we get a what the fuck? Again? Another sentence that doesn't sentence? Clearly you people know what periods are with all the ellipses. What's the excuse here? Did not one additional person look over this book? Was the goal to just shit out a product as quick as possible to bank off dumb kids who buy anything as long as the word Faz is in it? I'm not expecting atonement, like Ian McEwan's atonement, but I am expecting professionalism, something that shows me that someone, anyone, behind the scenes actually gave a shit. Anyway, as they go through the restaurant, we learn something super interesting about one of the film crew, Rob. His life passion, apparently, is the study of residual energy in artifacts. Wow. Super cool, Rob. Was this their attempt to try and shoehorn Remnant into the story? Spoiler alert, it doesn't come up again and Rob gets murked by the piranha marionette doll things. But not before he drops a horrible curse word. Like, I'm surprised they got away with it in a book like this. Special characters! You know, this is a very unserious book. Maybe I'd be more forgiving if the movies themselves and the novelizations were a little more humorous, like poking fun at themselves. But no, the back cover insists this is a bone-chilling sequel. The only thing this novel's doing to my bones is giving them multiple myeloma. The rest of the scene plays out normal. Rob gets wrecked, the Mangle kills Alex, and Michael is like An actual psychopath. Michael bent over and looked through the viewfinder. There he watched Alex's severed arms and legs thud into frame. The sight may have been sickening to some, but not to Michael. And the sound. Oh, the sound. It was music to his ears. Yeah, attempts to delve into the inner psyche of movie Michael Afton aside, it's still incredibly ungratifying and out of character. It was stupid then, and it's stupid now. Charlotte possesses Lisa as expected, and the book makes no attempt to explain why the marionette needs a host body to move around. Again, stupid then, stupid now. The spin class psychosis scene happens, it's just as ridiculous as the movie. The lucid dreaming sequence happens and is actually more drawn out and bloody in the novel. Not much else to say. After Charlotte is released, Abby's Phaz talker awakens, and it again leads her to the old/new location. And, oh my god, this really gets my goat. It's funny, the prose is nothing special, but Andrea Waggener will, on occasion, just pull $1 million word out of nowhere. Diaphanous, Stygian, effulgent. And yet she'll confuse the word arc, as in the highest point of a curve, the proper usage in this context, with the word ark, as in the Ark of the Covenant, which is what appears in the fucking book. And I know someone could have caught that during the proofreading process, but come on, people. One shithead on the internet reading this book to make fun of it is catching errors that a team of professional writers and editors missed. Stupid! But yeah, Abby meets Toy Chica, who's more locomotive in the novel. Oh, I forgot to mention that this book contains some color photos from the movies, but they're just promotional stills I could have found on Google. It would have been cool to see some behind the scenes shots, as I've said before that the production design on these movies is the obvious high point. But no, can't have everything, I guess.
Pretty weenie.
We then get to the scene where Mike meets Henry, who's Charlotte's father. And remember how I said that Charlotte was being punted from her real parents, her step-parents, her foster parents, all throughout her young life? Is any of that mentioned in this scene? Not really. Adding additional layers to characters is fine and well, but that also means updating other parts of the story. Henry reflects on obsessing over his work, which implies that he neglected Charlotte, but there's nothing about step-parents or foster parents or physical abuse. I feel like this should have been a great opportunity to really expand on Henry and hammer in the guilt of the sort of hell he'd inadvertently put his daughter through. But he plays out pretty much identical to the movie, while Charlotte is given this heavy backstory that, while effective, doesn't fit anywhere else in the narrative. That's the disadvantage of novelizations. In trying to find that balance between staying true to the source and adding your own personal flair, it can result in imbalance. And I do not trust any Phaz book to convey any sense of balance. The science fair happens, Mr. Berg breaks Abby's project, he gets called a dick like before, which makes the squiggles come off even more stupid, and Toy Chica volunteers to be Abby's science project, resulting in, like before, Charlotte using Vanessa to trick Abby into disabling the perimeter lock, releasing the animatronics. As Mike arrives at the location to try and find Abby, there's a few really dumb writing moments. One where the book tries to leave you in suspense as to what's rattling in a locker, and it just flat out reveals it's Vanessa when she flops out of it, yet has Mike exclaim, "Vanessa?" as the chapter ends. Why would you try and build tension only to just reveal it to be Vanessa before Mike says Vanessa closing out the chapter? That's just incorrect. There's also this line, "If he'd been a dog, his hackles would have been fully raised." Thanks for the info. And then when they're reconciling, he'd felt it at the restaurant too, but he put it down to how great she'd looked. Now, given that she was dressed in faded jeans and a baggy t-shirt, her face was devoid of makeup, and her hair was stringy, he couldn't use the male reaction to a hot-looking woman as an excuse. My god. Andrea Waggener just has her finger firmly pressed on the pulse of the human condition. The male reaction to a hot-looking woman. I've never known such poetry. Romance just drips off the pages. That'll be my excuse next time I mess up on a date. Pardon me, madame. It was simply the male reaction to a hot-looking woman. They go through that scene where Mike's trying to deactivate the animatronics from the computer, and it keeps mentioning how he's punching in complicated bits of code. What? The book doesn't even know what he's doing. Also, I really don't remember, but do we know what Mike does for work now? He has a spotty job history, he has no skills. How's he affording a house, supporting his sister, and finding the time to learn to code? I'd chalk this more up to the movie being stupid than the book being stupid. But the book is still stupid. Vanessa also gets attacked by the mangle on the car, which is also the same, except the narration reveals it with an outburst of crap! I guess we're back to the PG swears. The action scene with the Wizards happens, and honestly, reading about it was much less silly than seeing it on screen. The book just made me roll my eyes. The movie made my eyes roll back into my skull. Except... oh, what? Really? Now you're okay with swearing again? You even do it a second time a page later. What was the point of those squiggles 100 pages ago? Was it fuck? Couldn't have just said shit there a third time? Technically a fourth time because it appears again in the epilogue? Can you be consistent, please? Can you try and tell a story that's written with tact? No? Then don't fucking write! I'm gonna have an aneurysm and they're gonna find a Freddy Fazbear-shaped bulge in my brain. Back at the school, it plays out normally with Toy Chica killing Mr. Berg, nothing to note. Then FazFest happens. Yeah, remember that from the movie? That completely pointless background plot that went nowhere? Honestly, they should have saved that for the third movie where the local amusement park hosts a seasonal event based on Freddy Fazbear's, and there's the haunted house attraction, Fazbear's Fright, that holds Springtrap, and the whole thing's a commentary on morbid tourism and commodifying tragedy and how senselessly rehashing the past keeps old evils alive in the form of Springtrap and... Please, let me write the third movie. There's still time, I'm begging you. We actually see FazFest from Toy Freddy's perspective, and it's kind of fun. It characterizes him as being motivated by subroutines and processors and functions, which is a twist I did not see coming. Toy Freddy turned his head to ascertain whether any further action was needed. His visual processors provided an image of the three humans nodding together as they gazed at him with their mouths wide open. Toy Freddy ran this through his meanings database. Ah, he concluded. I laughed. He and Toy Bonnie go to parents' houses to kill them, as remember they're being controlled by Charlotte, who hates parents. They give the parents and the kid more character and time to develop than in the movie, and... oh, come the fuck on, really? It was right above you and you still misspelled her name. What is wrong with you people? Are you trying to... I love Five Nights at Freddy's too. I liked the Wizards. The ending was epic. I can't wait for Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Anyway, Mike deactivates the animatronics and races back home, but he's too late to stop the marionette from possessing Abby, thus turning her into... oh my God. What? Spectral Scoopers was too silly for you, but you were perfectly fine with... Abby-Annette? How do you sleep at night, knowing you had to sit down at your computer and type the word Abby-Annette? Seriously, I'd love to know. I have trouble sleeping myself. They save Abby, but Michael Afton reveals himself as the instigator of the madness and Vanessa's brother, which is stupid then and stupid now, even when they try and elaborate by saying his security badge gives him power and that Charlotte provides the bloodlust and he provides the subconscious suggestions. You're not Vader Palpatining this FNAF 2 novel. I won't let you. As expected, the OGs arrive and fuck up the toy animatronics. Mike and Abby leave Vanessa because he doesn't trust her, and she gets possessed by the marionette next, which is honestly conveyed a lot better here than the movie. Abby shows hesitation and remorse for Vanessa, and the possession is actually built up and not relegated to a stupid cliffhanger. The epilogue's largely the same, and that is the end. Wow. That was Faz shit. This book was clearly rushed and not given the attention or dignity it deserved. It was an obligation designed to cash in on a property that, frankly, doesn't have much else going for it these days. I almost feel bad because pretty much all of the book's narrative problems are a result of the movie sucking so much. But still, the weird writing choices, the typos and technical errors are just inexcusable, especially for something attached to a hugely popular franchise like Five Nights at Freddy's. I can appreciate Andrea's attempts to inject context or layers to certain characters and scenes, but there's only so much you can do when you're bound to the story you're compelled to adapt. And the bad story combined with the tacky, careless writing and non-existent editing results in a very unpleasant reading experience. The FNAF 2 novelization is not worth your time. If you want to buy it to laugh at the strangeness or the mistakes, or if you're a collector, then by all means, but I personally can't recommend it. I've said it before and I'll say it again, FNAF fans deserve better. They deserve quality and care and passion. Not slipshod, profit-driven slop like this. I'm still holding out hope for a FNAF novel that explores Fredbear's family diner or Vanessa's transformation into Vanny, but I hate to report that until that day comes, if it comes, we'll have to settle with garbage like this. Take care, everyone. I'll see you all next time.